As people interact with AI a bit more, they tend to learn that the more expressive they are, the better the result set that they can see. The question that you ask, the prompt that you deliver to the AI really informs how it responds. It's very sensitive to your input. Have you found this style of prompt or this amount of detail gives you better results?
Antisha Gaitan is the founder of Amplifi Group, a marketing consultancy helping healthcare and health tech companies grow through clear messaging and results-driven campaigns. With over 20 years of experience, she specializes in helping mission-driven organizations connect with their audience and turn engagement into action as a certified story brand guide and fractional CMO.
What was the journey that got you where you are now?
I started working at advertising agencies, worked in a lot of different areas, everything from media planning, SEO.
Tell me how you found AI to begin with.
Kind of along the lines of others when people first started talking about ChatGPT. I jumped on there like, what is this thing? What does it do?
What you were thinking about when you said that and what sort of automation you are either pursuing or want to pursue.
I would say that
hello, everyone. Welcome back to the AI for Business Owners podcast. I am your host, Jeff Torello. My guest this week should be a fun conversation. Antisha, if you want to tell everybody about yourself, give a little background, say hi.
Hi, thanks for having me. My name is Antisha Gaitan, founder and CEO of Amplifi Group, a marketing consulting company based in Kansas City, where I serve companies nationwide. So for a lot of people, scaling a business without proper marketing strategy can feel like pushing a boulder uphill. Well, Amplifi Group, I solve that by offering expert messaging, branding, and strategy development for businesses looking to grow. So our clients end up with a solid foundation for marketing that translates directly into revenue growth. I'm a story brand certified coach with about 20 years of experience in marketing across agencies and enterprise brands. My sweet spot has always been helping growth stage companies with small teams turn random tactics into a clear, measurable plan. I come in some instances, as a fractional marketing leader, aligning sales and marketing, sharpening positioning, and building campaigns that move the needle. I also help with website strategy and optimization. When it comes to I treat it as a force multiplier. So I use it to speed up research, customer insights, gathering, as well as drafting messaging, creating content outlines, and actually helps me with repurposing content into emails and social.
Okay, makes sense. I have a couple questions, but the first one is, do you have a military background?
No military background. No.
Really? Because force multiplier is a very common phrase in the military. It's interesting that you used it.
Yeah, so it's something that comes to mind as far as, really amplifying something, taking it and multiplying its effect. That's something that I love to be able to do and help organizations with.
I've referred to AI as a force multiplier for a couple of years. It's very strong explanation for when used correctly and in the right ways, AI can be a force multiplier for your personal, for your business, there's a lot of reasons. And I appreciate that you used it. I was just curious if you had a military background, that's where that came from. It doesn't mean you have to. It's fine.
No, I understand what you're saying.
So did you always start out wanting to be a consultant with that context of marketing, or were you doing marketing previously? What was the journey that got you where you are now?
Well, I've had an interesting journey throughout, say, the past 20 years. So I started out working. My background was television production. That's what I was planning to do once I left college, oh, so long ago. But then ended up taking a turn working in advertising agencies. Worked in a lot of different areas, everything from media planning, SEO, working on website design, also even to the creative side, working as an art director. So I've had a chance to be in a lot of different roles, thinking along strategy and everything to be able to see kind of the overall picture of what's going on within the organization, what's going on with the brand from a lot of different aspects. So that's kind of what led me down this path. And then here recently, I decided that it was time for me to step out on my own and focus on my own business, which I had been doing freelance and consulting work for quite some time, but I've really leaned into that here recently.
Okay, great. Who's your target market? Are you looking at small, medium business? Are you looking at enterprise? Who do you find? What's your sweet spot, I should say?
I really enjoy working with small teams that are really trying to figure things out, whether it's, growth stage startups or other types of small businesses that really are, have lost some footing when it comes to their messaging, their strategy, not aligning. And you would be surprised though, you see the same issues in larger organizations as well. I have turned kind of a focus to the healthcare industry and health tech, so that's who I am focused on right now, with a lot of my efforts.
Okay, makes sense. Let's talk. Theoretically, this is an AI podcast, so let's talk a little bit about AI. I assume you kind of got introduced or stumbled across ChatGPT at some point. It's probably how you entered the system, but maybe you didn't. So tell me how you found AI to begin with, and what your personal and/or your journey overall has been to so far.
Yeah, so, kind of along the lines of others when people first started talking about ChatGPT, I jumped on there like, "What is this thing? What does it do?" I know a lot of the buzz with AI, happened around that time, but I already knew and understood how AI was changing things many years ago. I was an early adapter to like things as far as like Grammarly and did some research into voice search, early on. And
Okay.
that's just AI. People didn't really look at it that way, but it was definitely some of the first things to come to market for consumers from an AI perspective. But it's like, even if we go back to spell check in Word years ago, that's AI predicting and letting us know how things should sound. But of course, in the beginning, it was those simple things like, maybe rewrite something, telling it to do basic things. But then over time, as AI has just blown up, I've found a lot of different areas that it's useful, like I said, in research and some of the strategies that I put together, giving ideas. I definitely use it from an idea generation standpoint when I'm working with clients, doing competitor research. It's just can give me so much more information than it had before. And then I'm just kind of getting into understanding how it can help me with automations. But then also, just yesterday, I was listening to someone talking how it's helping them with responding to emails and making their agent so it's responding specifically to what the person originally wrote them. And so I'm looking into ways that I can help that, create some efficiency, especially with, I have it's me and the company, but then I do work with some other individuals on my small team. And so when I'm looking to do a lot of different things, whether it be business development, working with my clients, I want to make sure that there's efficiencies in my business to help me take some things off my plate. So I'm not doing everything, but so it can help me take more advantage of the time that I'm spending within my business and giving me that, the room to grow my business and not be boggled down with all those, you know, not as important tasks that have to get done.
Yeah, makes sense. I want to come back to your comment about automation because I think that's an important one. Because you're doing marketing consulting, I expect that there's at least some part of what you're doing from an AI perspective that is either content generation or content revision or things of that nature. Is that true? Is that part of what you're using it for?
I do tend to lean on it somewhat for, especially content ideation and figuring out, okay, we have um, specific, content pillars that we're focusing on. What are some ways that we can talk about those topics different than we did last week or something along those lines. I have been a very visual person when it comes to like creating visuals for social media. That's something I've done a lot of. But then I was always working with a copywriter. So now it makes it easier for me to be able to create those visuals. But then, I can lean on some of the output from AI to give me some of that copy. Now, of course, I'm a firm believer in, it's about input and output. If you put if you put trash in, you're going to get trash out.
Right, right,
Um
absolutely.
and and then I don't look at AI as the end all be all. I take that and then I still, tweak it when necessary. And it may be some things pieces I take from it, but then I still may rework it to put in my own voice or make it suitable for the clients that I'm working with.
It makes sense. I think that that's a pretty strong motif for not just for content generation, but for general use. What I mean by that is the idea of prompt engineering, which is being superseded by a new topic that we'll talk about in a second. But when you're doing ideation, right, the question that you ask, the prompt that you deliver to the AI really, really informs how it responds. It's very sensitive to your input. I'm curious if you have either prompts you're reusing or a style that you're reusing in order to get better output. I'm sure if you've experimented for a little while, you've recognized that if you just say a few words, you get some stuff, but if you're a little bit more descriptive and flowery, you get better output. And so have you found, I'm not asking for your secret sauce, but have you found this style of prompt or this amount of detail gives you better results? And are you using that on a regular basis?
Yes, at times I use specific prompts that can be reused. I give it guidelines and stuff, but then there's also um times where I'm asking it to ask me questions to make better prompts. I found that that can be really useful because there may be blind spots that I didn't even think about. Oh, I should probably give it this information. So it's like, having a conversation with a coworker. It's like you're asking me what else you need as you're going along. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
very
something I
cool.
use. And then there's also different, tools, some custom tools that I use that are specifically within my field that help not with just ideation, but strategic plans and different things along that sort, where I don't have to put as much information because it's already created
Sure.
to give me a specific output that's along the lines of the information that I'm providing.
Okay. Yeah, that makes good sense. Have you done any experimentation using the concept of personas when you're talking to the AI?
I haven't used specific personas, but it has helped me create some personas
Okay.
for some clients.
Okay.
And
Yeah. So that's like, a persona like going after a particular user or
oh,
something.
that's what you were talking about.
No,
Yes.
no. So there's another piece to this, and that's why I asked because this might be interesting for you. You can essentially with prompting, you can program the AI to take on a persona,
Yes.
and
Okay.
then you can interact with it. So you could like a famous marketer that you like,
I
if
have
they're a
done
public
that.
person. Have you?
I just
Yeah.
was
Okay.
Yeah,
No,
I've
it's
actually
fine.
yeah, I've done that. I just wasn't thinking of the lines of persona, but I will put in there like, act as this person to give some insight, or what would this there's been times where I've done it where it's like, what would this person do in this instant? Or if I know that a certain individual uses a certain framework, I may put in something and say, use this framework or go along the same lines and create something that this person would do. Yes, there's been times where I use that.
Cool. There's another spin to personas that is somewhat interesting. It depends on the use case, obviously, but for example, instead of what I was saying to you is you could pick a famous marketer and tell the AI, hey, I want you to act like a famous marketer. I'm going to ask you questions. Give me advice. Okay, that's fine. But the other thing you can do is make personas and use the AI as market research and say, you are this demographic. You're married with two kids and making this money, and you live in this location, and you're interested in, I don't know, I'll make it up, hiking,
Mhm.
whatever. And we have a new tent because I'm gonna keep going with this crazy analogy.
I'm good with camping. My sons are in scouts and
Okay,
stuff,
there
so
you
I'm
go.
good
Yeah,
with
yeah, yeah.
camping. Yep.
So and you give all that to the AI and then say, okay, I'm going to ask you some questions now. And then you say things like, what's important to you with respect to a tent, or now that's obviously a foolish conversation, but I think you get the concept. You can turn the AI into a different market research persona and start asking it, and it will give you, based on its training data set, it will give you back what it thinks are common answers. And you can say things like, what's important to you? Is price important, or is breathability important? Like, I keep going the tent thing, but And not everybody understands that that's a viable way of using the AI and turning it into a research tool and then just beating up on it, asking all kinds of questions. You mentioned a little while ago that you sometimes have the AI ask you questions, which is another really fantastic capability that I don't know people. How do you prompt that? In other words, what you tell it, you're conducting research, ask me what is it? What's your structure? How do you set that up?
Well, I will say that I have received through, especially this year, it seems like I found different people that I follow and they've provided prompts. So that helps when it's like they provide like a master prompt and it'll go through and I'll like tell exactly what I want. It'll go through a whole series of questions and we just go back and forth. But then there has been some times where it's like, okay, this is what I'm trying to do. Let me, so not using a specific prompt from someone else, but explaining, giving background to what I'm trying to accomplish. Here's the background information, and ask me questions to build the best prompt for this, or ask me questions to get the best, to get basically the best output from you in doing that.
Cool. Okay. Yeah, that's really neat.
Because that takes it from that basic level of one sentence to really more of that deep thought and going deeper into the conversation. Like I said before, uncovering those things that I wouldn't have even thought to put in just one initial prompt to get what I wanted.
Yeah, I think as people interact with AI more, they tend to learn that the more expressive they are, the better the result set that they can see. The other thing I find interesting, if you go down this path, again, it's the use case dependent, but you can actually tell the AI that you want it to be very strict and follow this pattern or rule set. Or you can say, I want you to be super creative and give me outlandish ideas that maybe aren't really a good idea, but I want to hear them anyway. Especially if you're in an ideation phase, if you're just trying to, the idea of brainstorming is throw it all on the wall and then start looking at, okay, that was foolish. No, but you can do that with the AI and you can tell it, I want you to be creative. Go ahead and, give me the space race idea. Give me something wild.
Yeah.
Sometimes you'll find that that ends up being useful depending on the client, depending on the product, etc. Right?
Yeah, that's a really good idea. I've done that when it's like I'm working on a campaign and from the creative side where I'd work with the team and was like just throw out anything you can think of like within a 5-10 minute period. And then it's like, okay, we know we're not gonna do that, but there might be something crazy that comes out. It's like, wait a minute, we could do something with that and tweak it. So yeah, I'll definitely have to try that one day. Just give me anything.
Right. Right. It's useful. You got to tell it to do that. You've got to basically tell it to come out of its box because it tries to stay inside of the rails that they give it. But it's available for you to sort of manipulate a little bit and ask it to be a little outside the box and crazy. You talked a little bit about automation earlier, and I'm just curious what you were thinking about when you said that, and what sort of automation you are either pursuing or want to pursue.
I would say that, I it's one of those things that I've helped a lot of my clients with some automation. I am just kind of at the point with like emails and stuff and signups and that sort of thing. But I really would like to get to a point and really dig into, being able to automate more tasks where it's like, okay, if I upload this document, then it's gonna like a whole workflow where it's gonna, then talk to this app and then do this thing. I know the capabilities are there, but I just haven't had the time to do it for myself. Yeah, that's one of those things that I haven't taken the time out to do. But it's on my list because I know I've seen some use cases for it and how it can really streamline things. But yeah, just haven't been able to do that. Kind of along the lines of, sometimes people say that, the marketers are the worst marketers sometimes because they're so busy doing the marketing for other people and it's hard to
Right.
actually do it for yourself. So
Right.
that's kinda where I am.
Are you familiar with any tools that would help you with that sort of workflow automation type activity?
I know that I want to I've seen people do some really cool things with, like, Make. I wanna get in there, create some things, just haven't had a chance to, but I know that there's a lot of different tools out there.
Yeah, there's four names I would give you to look at and compare. Make is certainly one of them. Zapier is another one that's pretty common. Mind Studio is a third one. And then the company's called N8N. That's the name, N8N.
Is it the number 8? Like N,
It is. Yeah, it
letter
absolutely is.
8,
It's
and then
it's
N.
three total characters, right? You got
Okay.
it. N8 and N. Yeah, you got it. They all do a variation of the same basic theme, and some of them have a better list of built-in integrations that make a lot more point and click functionality easier. Some of them are more, hey, write some stuff yourself, and that tends to need a little bit more technical skill set, and but nothing that you can't, ask the AI to help you write, because
Right.
strangely enough, it'll do that. But to give you an example of the things that are possible, that just to let you sort of ideate, I have a workflow that was written by some interns, and they're not like professional developers; they're college students, but they're super eager and they're really good at what they do, and I'm super pleased with them. Uh, but they've basically written a workflow that performs the following: it manages a Google Sheet of topics that I'm interested in, and I have the ability to add and remove topics anytime I want. Every morning, it goes out and uses an AI based search tool to search for articles in the last 24 hours related to those topics and bring them back to me, summarizing the article and giving me a link if I want to read the whole thing. And each article has an option to click a button that's called post. And that post will automatically put that article as a post on my LinkedIn or on Twitter. And it'll do it either from my personal or from the company's account. The best part is all of that I just described to you, I interact with from my Slack with a bot that they wrote that communicates with this workflow. So I have a Slack channel that I look at every morning, and I look at what content I want to post that day, and I interact just by clicking in Slack, and it communicates with the workflow.
That's pretty amazing.
And
That
there
definitely
was
takes.
not a ton. Yeah, there was not a ton of programming is what I wanted to get across to you. Like, there was a lot of point and click and very simplistic capability.
Yeah, and knowing that that's possible, individuals are using that is definitely something I wanna look into further for myself, because I know that it could save me some time on, tedious things I'm doing, like posting and sharing information, and
Yeah,
yeah, even the just because I have used send me in different articles on certain topics and
right.
everything, but then it's still like they'll give me a snippet of the first few lines. I still got to kind of read it. So having the summary and then it's like, oh, I like this one, post, and it's done. Like, yeah, that's something that would be great to have.
Yeah, and there's some dials that can be twiddled there to control the amount of summarization. Do you want one paragraph, two paragraphs, etc.? And then the summary is what actually gets posted on LinkedIn or Twitter. That's the actual post, and then there's a link to the article itself. And so that's just a content generation machine that runs every morning for me and lets me be consistent about, part of the whole game with social, as you're well aware, I know, is you got to be consistent. You got to be there all the time. You can't just randomly show up once in a while, right?
Yeah.
The algorithm likes you to always be feeding.
It's like,
Uh,
give me more, give me more.
exactly. Yeah, I bring that up mainly because I think one of the things you might be able to do, aside from doing automation for yourself, is offer that to clients, right? Let me help you with automated content production and even posting. Or if they don't want the last part, we can just generate content for you and then send it in an email or whatever. And then you can do what you need to do with that. And if you don't like that, we can just post your socials for you and keep you updated. And what I'm suggesting is, instead of you having to manually do that, you could have this automation flow and just copy it, make it for the next client, let it run.
Yeah. Yep. That's definitely a good idea.
So I don't particularly have one or the other of those four that I gave you as that you should do X, but I think you play around, you'll find the one that fits and works for you. Each one of those has a bit of a different interface. Some of them are written more for a nerdy audience. Some of them are written more for a business audience. And so whichever one feels right for you is the one you'll pick.
Well, yeah, I had never heard of the Mind Studios or the NAN. The other two I'm
Okay.
familiar with, but yeah. So I have
Sure.
to I have to look those up and see what all those are about and check them out.
Yeah. And it's worth spending a little bit of time playing around with it because there's a lot of power there that's pretty inexpensive to deploy. And it then gives you the opportunity from my point of view for what you are doing, more capability, more service you can offer to take on more of the work for your customers to help them be better at what you're trying to give them, right? And you don't have to turn into the Mind Studio maven and you're just constantly right. That's not, I'm not trying to change your job. Sorry.
No, you're fine, but it helps with, when I'm talking to different companies about different strategies that they can apply and things that they can use in their team, knowing that there's that capability, like even me helping them build that out and then
Yeah,
their team can manage that. That's something
sure.
that's going to be valuable to them. So no, I definitely take all that and, put it on my list of things to check out here soon.
You can do a similar style of workflow automation, but this time you can be looking for or prospecting for clients. And what you can do is you can do keywords, look for people that are posting about these topics, and then have the tools gather enough information that you have the ability to reach out and contact that person, whether it's email or their website or whatever the right answer might be. And you can have that prospector just out there constantly looking for folks that are making commentary that you might necessarily not find on your own because you're not going to, every one of those Reddit subjects or, whatever. It doesn't matter. You can look wherever you want to look. But in your case, you might be looking for some folks who are like, does anybody recommend somebody for marketing assistance for a small bit? Okay, well, maybe that's somebody you want to find and talk to. And those are all possible. Those are all realistic, but you could do even more specific prospecting than that. And then if you really wanted to get deep, depending on how much effort you wanted to get into, there are data enrichment companies. You're familiar with enrichment?
Somewhat. Yep.
So the idea being you could have that automated as well. So if you find someone who's talking about a relevant topic and you want to find a way to contact them and you only see either their Reddit handle or their Twitter or whatever, some of these enrichment entities, you can send that in via an automated API call and they'll give you back a first name, a last name, an email address, etc. And you can then send an automated email or call someone or whatever the case may be. And it could automate the prospecting. So basically automate the growth side as well as the content production side.
Okay. Yeah, hadn't thought about that, but I was in a presentation, and a gentleman was talking about how something he does in chat where it basically does that prospecting for him and it pulls in the contact information and everything. He was supposed to be sending that to me, but I haven't gotten that yet. But so I know that that's available. I've just never done anything where it was setting up to be able to get that type of data from something that I set up. I know of different companies out there that, they scrape email signatures and different
Right.
stuff along those lines, but you have to pay a lot of money to get that information. So,
Yeah, exactly. And what I'm suggesting from this workflow perspective, it won't be as good as a Zoom Info subscription, but that's like
yeah.
$15,000 a year or something. I don't know 100% what it costs, but it's not cheap. But, especially if you're solopreneur, you can make this work as a starting point. What I kind of like about this model in this context is you can change what you're searching for daily. So like you could put in, hey, I want to look for these 4 or 5 phrases just to make a conversation. And if you're not seeing good results, you're not seeing enough prospects, you can just go in and change those. And then when you see one that really works well, you leave that there and then you try variations on that theme but you get so much more control because all you're doing is changing the original search query and then you just let it run. And tomorrow you see how many people do you have to poke at. And then what's the quality of those people? So you reach out and does anyone even respond? And if they don't, okay, so maybe that's not the right keyword because maybe they don't want to be, but
Yeah.
it's easy to just twiddle some dials there and figure out the best way to do sort of automated prospecting.
No, that's some good ideas there. Definitely take it along the lines of wanting to think further with that.
Yeah, and
Saving me some
especially
time.
again when you're a solopreneur, the idea is you can't do it all.
That's correct. Yep.
So how do you manage some of this stuff? Well, maybe you automate it, right? And the last thought I'll leave you with, and then I'll let you have the last word for the podcast here. But most of the places I just talked about have a template library or a shared library from other users with pre-made workflows. Sometimes they want to charge you $1 or $3. Sometimes they're free. And then you just load it up and tweak it a little bit and fire. So it's not that you have to do all of it. Sometimes I bet you if you go to N8N or MindStudio, you'll find a couple samples of pre-made prospectors and you just go turn them on.
Yeah. And then just tweak them as necessary. No, that's good too. Cause I'm all about, there's no point in complicating things. If it's already been done and I can take that and tweak it a little bit, might as well go that route. But yeah, I appreciate that.
Yeah, no worries. Any final thoughts or words or commentary you want to throw out there?
Yeah. If any of the listeners, yours, are needing some help from a marketing standpoint, marketing strategy, aligning teams, feel free to reach out to me. You can find me on any of the social platforms at Antisha Gaitan. Also, you can find me or connect with me on my website, which is Amplifi. It's AMPLIFI, amplifigroup.com. Feel free to reach out.
All right, great. Awesome. Thanks very much. It was good talking to you.
Yeah, great talking to you too.
Thanks a lot.
Yep, thanks.